Hey guys, welcome. This is the first video. It's essentially just an introductory video to Revit 2020. When you first open up Revit, this is you'll see like the models, recent files screen. On your file, you're only going to have just the sample architectural project and other things. Um, there's no exercises associated with this video, so you can just kind of follow along and watch the video. I'm just going to walk you guys through really quickly the logic of Revit and also, what the software is used for, okay? So I'm going to open up the sample architecture project. You should have that on your home screen as well. Okay, before we begin, really quickly, really important, if you were to download a Revit software from the Autodesk website, you need to make sure that you download the Autodesk Revit 2020 version and not 2021 or 2019. The reason being, Autodesk, Revit is one of the few software that has no backwards compatibility, which means that if you open or save a file in 2021, you can no longer work on that file in 2020 or 2019. There was no backwards compatibility. So, the lab here at school is running Revit 2020 if you were to remote into the lab. So because of that, we are going to work in 2020 and it's also a little bit more stable. Okay, so just to make sure that you're running, 2020 when you boot up, okay? So when I first open up this sample project, this is kind of what you see. In the other project browser, this is what you have. So really quickly, I want to explain to you guys what Revit is. And Revit is part of a suite of software called BIM software. And what BIM is called Building Information Modeling. And it's a little bit different than 3D modeling that you might be used to, whether in SketchUp or in 3D Studio Max or in Alias or Rhino. Okay, the difference between 3D modeling like that and BIM modeling is that BIM modeling is about building information, which means that when you create a wall, it's not just a simple wall. It's a wall with actual construction, materials and studs and drywall and insulation, and you have to specify all of these things to make a functional building. So there are pluses and minuses of working with a software like this, okay? In terms of creating construction documents, this is where BIM modeling is the most powerful. Because, by creating one model, you are now you have access to, basically your scheduling, everything is automatically updated. You no longer have to go, page by page or like plan by plan and then change things one at a time. So you can set up your sheets, like this is the title sheet that we're seeing. If I look at my site plan, this is my site plan, right? I can zoom in. The way it works, and we'll get into this in the next video, is that you use the scroll button on your mouse, the middle mouse button, to scroll in and out. If I were to press my middle mouse button, I could kind of pan around on the sheet. Okay? So if I expand my sheet in the project browser right here, it's on the sheets. If I expand it, it shows me the different kind of components that make up this sheet, right? There's a 3D view solar analysis of the house, right? And again, this is just the model of the house itself, you see. There is like the floor plan. This is the site floor plan with the shadows embedded. And then these are like the tree callouts, and that's the planning schedule, for instance. So this is the planning schedule. So one of the powers of like BIM modeling is this. I'll show you really quickly just from the site plan. Okay, and I don't want to see this title sheet for now, so I'm going to close this. So I've opened up the main site plan sheet. It shows me the planting schedule. It shows me the solar analysis, and it shows me the actual site of the house. All right, this is the actual house. This is the site, And this is the planning schedule. I'm going to put up one more view actually. I'm going to open up a 3D view of my project. And to get open a default 3D view, you can come up here and on the upper toolbar. You can also expand under views. This is 3D views. You can double click on 3D, and this kind of gives you the actual model of the house. The 3D view is what you'll be modeling in. Okay. Again, if I were to zoom, you'll notice that wherever I zoom, and wherever my cursor is, that's where I zoom in, right? I zoom out, zoom in. If I were to, press and hold my middle mouse button, I pan. If I were to hold down the Shift key on my keyboard and then I press the middle mouse button, that's kind of like I orbit around. So wherever my cursor is, that's kind of where I orbit. If I select something, for instance, like this window, and then I orbit, I will actually orbit around that point. If I select this car, I will orbit around that car. Okay, so you can, selectively, whatever you select, that's what your view will orbit around. Wherever you move your mouse, that's where you will kind of zoom in and out. Okay, so I want to show you guys this really quickly because I want to switch to views really fast now to show you guys why the BIM modeling is useful for construction documents. So I'm going to go down to the View tab here. I'm going to click down Tile View. When I go to Tile View, what it will do is it will show each one of these tabs. It will show them all side by side. Okay, so if I go to Tile Views, now I've got my, I can resize these things. I actually don't need my solar analysis. I'm going to get rid of that one. So I've got my 3D view. This is my site plan. I've got two site plans here. Actually, I don't need this. Actually, this is my overall sheet. So I just want to show you this has everything in it, right? Okay, so let's take a look. If I wanted to zoom on all of my sheet, I can click on this little button here on any one of my windows. I get a little pull down menu. I go zoom on to fit. And I click on it, and then it'll basically zoom out so that the whole model or drawing is then fit on your little viewports. Okay. So what I wanted to show you is that the power of the software lies in the fact that everything is linked together. So if I were to, let's say, click on one of these, trees, and right now my planning schedule tells me how many locust and hawthorn trees, aspen trees it has. So I've got 8 honey locust trees. If I were to look on my site plan, it's marked, this tag as like the T1. This is the honey locust, right? If I were to select one of my honey locust trees, let's say I click on modify, click on this guy, okay, click on it, and I just delete on my keyboard, automatically my honey locust goes down to 7, right? So now if I were to, let's say, click on another honey locust tree, now the planning schedule automatically updates to 6. On my site plan, the overall site plan now, the actual drawing that you're going to print, it actually updates the count to 6 as well. So, instead of kind of, working with like different scheduling in AutoCAD, and then you have to keep track of every changes you make, here in Revit, if you just make one change, it updates everything. So, that's where the power of kind of information modeling is, okay? And it goes further than that. Revit is actually pretty smart, but it's also limiting in a way. In order to do customized, modeling in families, it's going to take a lot of expertise on your part for you to be able to do it. But the power of Revit is in a sense. So right now, if I look at my drawing here, for instance, I don't have a door schedule or window schedule, right? We don't have one in this introduction. If I look at my schedule, I expand it, they don't have one. Now, if I wanted to add a schedule, for instance, I'll just right click over schedule quantities and go new schedule. Okay. Now I'm going to, let's say, select a window schedule. I want to show you guys how to, make one really quickly. And it's fine. I'm just going to keep everything the same. So in terms of what type of field I want in my for my windows, first I want to count. I want to know how many of the windows there are in my project. I want, let's say what type of window it is. So I'll go family. Okay, I'll type in, the if it's a model number, manufacturer, you can type that in as well. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to type in, I do need the height. I do need the width of the project, and I probably also need one more thing, which is the, I don't know if I need the keynote here. Let me take a look. There's assembly code, there's the type. Oh, I do need probably, let's take a look. We can see, all right, so let's just say that was what we've got right now. So once I have my windows scheduled, this is the type of windows that I've got, okay? So now let's take a look. I'm gonna close this. I'm gonna switch back to tab views. And now I'm going to, I'm gonna close my site view. I'm going to close my plan view and my planning schedule, okay? So now, what I want to show you guys really quickly is the same thing. The window schedule right now shows me all of the windows being used in the project. This is in metric. It shows me the height and the width of the windows. It shows me the type of windows that is being used, right? So, if I were to, I'm going to switch back to view. I'm going to go down to tile view so you can kind of see what I'm doing. Actually, before I do that, I'm going to go back to tab view. I want to show you one more thing. I want to open up a plans, the two plan as well, okay? Mainly because I want to show you, and also I'll bring up like an elevation, just so you guys understand how this works, okay? Let's see. Let me take a look at this elevation. Okay, this elevation is fine. The reason is that I'm going to tile the view. Let's zoom on all of them. So the way this works, guys, is that, mostly you'll be working in a 3D view. But I just want to show you that if I select one window in one view, just like in 3D Studio Max or anything else, it selects that windows in all the views, okay? You can also, through the window schedule, if I click on each window, you'll see how it actually changed my window selections on this view. If I were to, right now, this one is being selected, this one here. If I were to change the height of my window here to like 1500 millimeters, it actually changes the height of my windows here, right? So, if I were to change this particular window, let's say if I click on it here, this is the type of windows I've got right now. So right now in the project, there's only two types of windows that are being used. I have to load more types of windows in here. Okay? If I wanted to load more windows, I'm just going to go down to architecture. And again, we'll cover all of this when we start modeling, but I just want to show you guys something really quickly in terms of how how the software keeps track of components and families. I'm going to load a family. In this class, we'll be working on feet and inches, so I'm going to use mostly US Imperial. So this is kind of like where the things are, kept on the hard drive. I'm going to load Windows, and you can kind of go through. These are like the default windows it has, right? You can't put a skylight on a wall. It understands that a skylight cannot go on a wall. It can only go on a roof, so you cannot pick any of these. Okay, so I'm going to pick, let's say I'm going to pick one of these windows here that doesn't go with the house at all. And you can pick what the size of the window that you've got. I'm going to pick, like a big one here, let's say 36 by 60, one of the biggest sizes. 36 by 65, and click OK. Okay. So now, if I were to select this window here, guys, make sure you have the select modify command on. I click on this window, it's selected. I can actually come down to my modify and I can pick this window instead. Okay, and then it will automatically change this windows now to this the one that we have just loaded. Okay, and once I do that, obviously the family, the window, and the type automatically gets updated in my schedule, right? And that gets updated in my elevation. It gets updated in my plan. Okay, the number of the call out is also changed automatically just by doing that. One thing I also want to point out to you now that you can kind of see how the software, the logic of it and how it works, guys. The plus side and the negative side is this, okay? So, in, a software like SketchUp or Max, when you model a wall, it's just a rectangle, okay? Now, a wall here in Revit, even though you can just put in a generic wall with nothing, um, technically a wall, like this basic wall here, if I look at this basic wall, it's if I expand on this is the type of wall that's being used. If I go edit type of this wall, let's take a look at it. This is the construction. It shows me the structure of the wall. I click on edit, and it tells me what material is on which wall. So it's not just a rectangle that's just like 5-inch thick. This is, if I click on the preview, this is the preview and plan. One of the things about Revit that's a little bit irritating, you have to switch to view, not from plan. You have to go to sections. So I want to illustrate what each one of these things are. It doesn't work on plan. It only works on section, and God knows why. Okay, but here you go. So if I click on my, this is the finish. It's got concrete, sand, cement on the outside. If I click on layer number 2, you've got the wood stud layer. Core boundary are just the difference between, it's just a kind of a marker between the structure and then the sheathing. So don't worry about this layer, that's just automatic, okay? The structure, you've got timber insulated panel, is this the thickness. You've got a thicker one here, and then you've got another, a thinner one, and then you've got the interior finish, which is a plasterboard, right? So this is actually the detail assembly of your wall, okay? So that makes it possible for you to, when you to cut a section of this, and I believe they do have sections of the project done, or at least, well, let's see, the section doesn't reveal the wall necessarily. I'm going to show you, let me take a look. Oh, here we go. So they do have sections. Here's a typical wall section of the project. So I'm going to zoom in. So that actually shows you all of the materials that we had talked about in that section. So that's how the details gets generated. It actually gets generated from the model of the project itself, okay? Now, if I were to change this basic wall to something else, let's say that I change this to, oh, I don't know, like I'm gonna change it to this stack wall here. Okay, now it's gonna update this. So all of a sudden now, my plan, this is now my section of the wall, right? So look, the house is now very different. Obviously, it's got CMU, and then it's got the brick on top of it. Now, if I go down to typical wall sections, then that, I'm not sure where that section is. We might have to actually edit this really quickly, mainly because that section, I think, is occurring here, probably. So it's just occurring in a different section, okay? But it should automatically update that as well, okay? Depending on where you cut the section, okay? So if I were to, let me take a look. If that's another way, and we'll get into this, which is chain selection, that tells you I'm going to change them all to this exterior wall. Now it's going to oh, it's going to switch a certain thing to a curtain wall, so it won't do it. Okay. Okay, it gave me that error because a certain curtain wall can't go to a stack wall, and we'll get into all of that later on. Okay. But now I go to the section. So now I actually have the brick wall here instead. It's much thicker. You see now my section change. Now I've got the CMU and then I've got the brick wall. So now all of my details, my section cuts actually change just because I changed the type of wall. And we'll get into that later when we get deeper into the semester. I've really kind of ruined this house. But that's kind of the basic idea of what Revit is. Okay, you have one model that by making any changes to any wall, it updates all of your details. It updates your window schedule, your landscape schedule. Everything is counted as information, and you have to the software automatically keeps track of everything. The downside, obviously, is that as a design tool, it's really more of a production tool rather than a design tool. For you guys, I think who are still, beginning design students, you're probably better off still, when you're designing your project to stick with either, I mean, I like 3D Studio Max, but you can use it in SketchUp or 3D Studio Max, or or even Rhino or some of the other software that are being used now. Revit, you can do space planning and stuff on it, but when you're actually modeling out more, kind of custom complex form, it does take a lot more work to do so. It's not impossible, but it does take more effort, okay? Because of the fact that it is a tool that is mainly used to make construction documents. All right. Anyways, we'll kind of tackle this thing a little, slowly as we get along. I'll try to build the course kind of like week by week, in terms of, just, building up walls, how you change, like the dimension when you sketch and you begin to refine your project. And then, how you put windows and how you edit the families and the types that I just showed you guys really quickly. So we'll kind of cover all of that throughout the semester, and at the very end, we'll go into Enscape a little bit, and that's a plugin. I don't know whether you guys can download Enscape for your computer. I think I'll check with Peter Din whether you guys are able to do that. But if you cannot, then make sure that we resolve the remote lab access, because we do have Enscape, and you might just need to do that for the last 2 weeks. Okay, so it's a way of rendering out the project in Enscape. You can render in Revit, and we'll get into that a little bit. It's not preferable because it takes a very long time, and the rendering quality is not that great. Okay. Anyways, I'll see you guys next week when we start our first exercise. Okay. Until then, hopefully this gives you a kind of an idea of what Revit does. Okay. I'm going to go back to my views. I'm going to go back to tab views. And again, you can just kind of close. Each time you double click on a window, it actually opens up like a new tab. So you want to make sure when you're working that you don't have too many. These are rendered images, by the way, on the title sheet. That's why when I changed my wall to brick here, it never updated it on the title sheet. So that is something when you render it out, you paste these images in. It's not a live look at your model as my planning schedule and my window schedule would be. Okay. All right. Anyways, guys, I'll see you guys next week, and then we'll cover just navigation in the viewport, and how to select things accurately, that type of stuff. Okay, I'll see you guys then.